Alright guys, so as you can see we've got something a little bit different here. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know when it comes to these AliExpress sale videos, I tend to do them a little bit differently than some other channels. I tend to try and only do ones that I've actually got hands-on experience with. I don't really like recommending watches I haven't actually tried out myself, for obvious reasons. So I try and stick to ones I do actually have hands-on experience with. With these ones in particular, these ones I've currently got in for review. Because of what's been going on, like my family situation and stuff, if you've been following the community posts, I've not had a chance to get the reviews done. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get them done in time for the sale, so I thought I'd basically do an overview of all of these. So I'm going to do a bit of a mini review for each one, so then at least you can decide whether you actually want to pick any of these up in the sale. As always, the links to all of these will be down in the description. If you want to check them out and use those, that really does help support the channel. And also, if you are going to do that, if you're going to pick any of these up, make sure that you're following all the stores and that you're checking out all the discount codes and coupons to make sure you get the best possible price. But enough waffling, let's jump right in and get down to the first watch. So first up we've got this Berny. So obviously this is the railway kind of style watch. You probably know what it's homaging. This is actually the version 2. So version 1, one of the main issues with that was the hands. The hands on it were pretty thin and also a little on the short side as well. So with this version 2, I think they fixed that main issue. So they actually have a few different variations of this one. So you can get it on this Milanese style strap that I've got here. And they also do it on a leather strap. I think they also do a couple of different dial versions as well. This particular one is actually a fully loomed dial, which I'll show you briefly in a minute. Also as well, we've got a quick release on that bracelet, which is a nice touch. The movement is a Miyota 8215, which I think is another upgrade. Not my favourite movement, but this particular one does actually have hacking, which is a nice touch, because they don't always. We've also got a little custom rotor there, or at least it's got a logo on it anyway, to customise it slightly. We've got a stainless steel case, we've got 50 metre water resistance, and we've also got a screw down, no we haven't, sorry, push-pull crown. So, fully printed dial, nothing applied. See, you've got that date window there at 3 o'clock. Just move those hands so you can see a bit better. You can see it has actually stopped the second hand as well, so we've got hacking, as I said. And those hands, they do make a big difference on this version 2. It just looks a lot better, I think. So I'll quickly turn the lights off and show you what that loom is like as well. So you can see it's lighting up quite a bit already, but just charge it up a little bit, just to give you a better idea. But it is really impressive, the loom on this. It's the kind of loom that actually glows during the day as well. It's that good. And for this kind of price, it's pretty amazing, to be honest. So there we go. And we've even got loom on that second hand as well, in red, which is a nice little touch. But as I say, really impressive loom, especially considering the price of this watch. So definitely, well, I'm not entirely sure if they even had a loomed version for the version 1, but this loomed version for version 2, really, really impressive. Another thing that's a really nice touch of this price as well is the fact that we've got sapphire crystal. It's just a flat sapphire, but it is nice to have it. And it is a really clear dial. Really easy to see, really legible. When it comes to the case finishing, it's pretty simple. Just brushed throughout, unsigned crown. I think it's a really impressive piece, considering what you're paying for it. And again, I'm not going to mention the prices on any of these because it's going to vary a bit depending on what vouchers you're going to be using, codes, coupons, what the tax is in your country. So again, check out the links in the description. The only thing to go over now is the dimensions on this. So we've got a diameter of 40mm, we've got a thickness of 11.6, we've got a lug width of 22, and then the all-important lug to lug is coming in at 47.4. So pretty nice dimensions. So again, I can't really think of any issues with this watch, to be honest. Possibly the name might bother you slightly. You might not like having that date window there. I think they might have a date version at the 6 o'clock or a no date version. Not 100% sure on that. Again, link will be down in the description so you can check it out and find out for sure. So all that's left to do now is quickly show you what it's like on wrist. So here's what it's like on my 7-inch wrist. It does wear nicely with that bit of curvature to those lugs. Milanese strap. Easy to get a perfect sizing on that as well. Do like that. So I definitely recommend this piece. Great value for money. But let's get on to the next one. Next up, we've got the Cadisen Seamaster 300 Homage. And it is a good looking piece, although right off the bat you're probably going to notice there's not really any AR on that. So that is a little disappointing. Would have been nice if they added it a bit, but it is sapphire crystal at least. And we've got a bit of a dome on that as well. We've also got a ceramic bezel insert. So it's a 120 click. Got a nice action on it. Got a tiny bit of backplay, but it's not awful. It is a little on the light side. I would have preferred it slightly tighter maybe. When it comes to the alignment though, it is nicely aligned. So no issues there. But as I say, there is a little bit of backplay as you can see. Which I guess, if yours is slightly misaligned, that might be a good thing. Because you'll be able to just move and maneuver it ever so slightly either way. The good thing about this one though, I'm going to zoom in and show you, is that we've actually got a sandwich dial on this. So you can see those indices and those numbers, they're actually recessed. Which is a really nice touch, do you like that? We've also got the date window down at the 4:30, which I know that might put some people off. I don't mind it, would have been nicer if it was colour matched. But it is what it is. Nice finishing on the hands though, nice high polish. So they catch the light nicely. Nice proportions on them as well. All looking good. Brush case, just polished chamfer details. We've also got female landings, which is nice, do like that. That'll help with the dimensions when we check that out in a bit. Fully brushed bracelet, polished sides. When it comes to the clasp, we've got the Cadisen brand in there. So double pushers, milled clasp. We've actually got an interesting case back design as well. Just get a zoom in and show you that. So we've got like the diver's goggles, and then some specs around the outside. Sapphire crystal, 200 meter water resistant. Oh, forgot to mention as well, also got a signed crown, which is screw down. And we've got an NH35 in this. I won't bother showing you that in action because you know what that's all about. So before I go over the loom and everything, let's quickly show you the dimensions. So we've got 38mm diameter, 13mm thick, 18mm lug width, and then when it comes to the all-important lug to lug, that's coming in at 45.4. So pretty nice compact dimensions really. Again, as I say, female landings, which always help. But let's check out what that loom's like quickly. So you can see we've got a little bit there already, but let's charge it up, give it a chance. So I was expecting some pretty good loom with this one, with it being a sandwich dial. So there we go. Pretty good so far. There is a little bit of discrepancy between the indices and the hands. Slightly different kind of shade maybe, or maybe one slightly brighter than the other. And you'll probably notice that is going to get more noticeable as this goes on. So the loom on the hands, unfortunately, because the style of them, there isn't a great deal of space there, especially on that hour hand. So unfortunately, they do actually fade slightly quicker than the rest of the dial, which isn't ideal. So when it comes to the overall loom on this, I'd say it was okay. It's not great, but it's not terrible. They just need a few more layers really, especially on those hands. But otherwise, as I say, it's alright. It's not going to last you all night, probably last a couple of hours I think, at most. But Cadisen don't really do these kind of watches. They normally focus more on dress watches. So I guess they're still working on the divers. So now let's quickly show you what it's like on wrist. So here's what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. It does wear really nicely, as you'd expect with those dimensions. It does fit nicely as well. Get the perfect sizing with the micro adjuster. No issues at all. The only real issues I do have is, again, would have liked a bit of AR on that crystal and improve that loom a bit. But if those aren't deal breakers for you, then perhaps this is the one for you. But on to the next one. Next up, we've got this Tissot PRX homage from Megalith. Sorry, I just have to say it like that. It's just one of those names where you just have to say it in a weird voice. I'll say it properly now. Megalith. Just doesn't sound as good though, does it? Anyway, getting back to the watch. So this is another fairly cheap piece, this one. So I wasn't expecting too much, but I've been pleasantly surprised. So just going to zoom in on that dial, show you that in a bit more detail, because there's quite a bit going on there. So we've got the 3 sub-dials, because this is a chronograph obviously, and all 3 of those sub-dials are actually for the chronograph. So we've actually got the ticking second hand, and then the 2 regular hands for the hour and the minutes, as well as the 3 sub-dials for the chronograph, as I say. Then we've got that date window down at the 4:30, so would have been better if that wasn't there, I think. Or, I don't know, colour matching at least. But again, for the price, you can't complain too much. So we've got applied indices, printed text, and you can probably see as well, we have actually got a little bit of space in those hands for loom. Talk about that in a bit. Got a nice bit of sunburst on those sub-dials. I think on some of the actual dials as well, they have a bit of a sunburst finish, but this black one that I've got doesn't. So when it comes to the rest of the watch, you can see we've got an integrated bracelet, which is going to affect the dimensions, especially the way that first link kind of sticks out slightly, it doesn't drop right down. We'll talk about that in a minute. Got a sign crown, which interestingly is just a push-pull, but we have actually got screw-down pushers, which I think is an interesting choice. But I guess you're not going to accidentally knock it, which is going to be a good thing, because this is actually a quartz piece, so you don't want to be draining that battery too much, just leaving that running all the time. So the movement in this is a Seiko VD57. And obviously that's a chronograph movement. Not one I've come across before, but seems to be working well enough. When it comes to the bracelet, it's got a pretty severe taper on it. Nicely finished links. If I had one issue, they are a touch sharp on the edge in some places. Especially when you catch it like in between on these. They can be a little bit sharp. Not to the point where it's going to cut you, but to the point where you're going to feel it. Got the Megalith brand in there. Double pushers, butterfly clasp. Not my favourite. Sometimes sizing can be an issue with that. But I managed to get this one to a decent fit. And then we've got the case back there. Stainless steel, 100-metre water resistance. And then just the Megalith branding on. And you can see there the integrated bracelet. So one thing that it didn't actually mention on the back of that case is that it's actually got sapphire crystal on this, which I think is a nice touch at this price point. It's just a flat sapphire crystal, but it's always good to have that. So you're probably wondering, what are the dimensions on this? So let's quickly go over them. 41mm diameter, got a thickness of 10.4, so pretty slim. That bracelet, if I'm actually measuring it, even though you can't change it, it's 28mm. And then, as I said, tapers down quite a bit. Then when it comes to the lug-to-lug, because of the way this sits, it's a little bit awkward to figure out where to measure from, but I've done it from here, where this first link drops down basically. So take this dimension with a pinch of salt. It's 54.4, but as I say, that does drop down pretty significantly. So it doesn't wear as big as that would suggest, which I'll show you in a minute. When it comes to that loom though, I'm not going to bother showing you that. It's pretty much pointless. You might as well have not bothered. It's that bad. So basically you just think of this as not having any loom. But let's show you what it's like on wrist. So this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. And as I said, despite it being, well, about a 54mm to this end link here, well, this first link, because it drops down a bit, it does actually conform to my wrist fairly nicely. I think it just about fits my wrist. If I had a smaller than 7-inch wrist, I'd probably be avoiding this one. Obviously, if you're a bigger guy, it's not going to be an issue. But it is really slim, which does help. And I do like the way the light just catches this bracelet. It does look good. And as I say, despite it being a butterfly clasp, because the links are quite small, I've managed to get a pretty decent fit. Which isn't always the case with the butterfly clasp. So, overall, I think for the price, not a bad option. Next up, we've got the Pagani design PD1751. Probably better known as the Tudor Ranger Homage. The first thing that struck me with this is that beautiful deep black dial. I do really, really like that. It's like inky black. Yeah, they could have had a bit of AR on it. Looks like there might be a touch. Got a slight blue tinge around the edge there, but a couple more layers probably would have been better. And then obviously we've got that kind of Phylida look, which is going to divide people. You're either going to love or hate that. I think it's quite subtly done, so I actually quite like it. When it comes to the proportions on those hands as well, I think they've nailed that absolutely spot on. No issues there at all. And then we've also got that applied Pagani design logo. So they've got rid of the text, just got the logo, which I do really, really like. We've all been saying for a while they should do that, so I'm glad that they've started doing that now. I also really like this domed crystal as well. It's actually a sapphire crystal too, which is always good. When it comes to the actual indices, they're all printed though. The only thing applied is that logo. And again, with that crystal, you get a nice bit of distortion at the edge there, so it almost looks like the dial's curving down. I do like that. I'm a sucker for a domed crystal, as you know. When it comes to the rest of the watch, probably noticed then, got polished sides on this case, so a little bit of a fingerprint magnet. Top is brushed to match in with the bracelet. We've got female end links as well, which is always good. Signed crown. We've got the usual Pagani design clasp, milled. We've also got a display case back showing that NH35. Got that it's stainless steel, 200 meter water resistant, and then Pagani design. They are screwed, so that's always good. Definitely my preferred method, which makes it easier, I think. Definitely prefer that to push pins. And one of the big differences between this and the actual one it's Homage is the dimensions. So let's go over them. 37mm diameter, 13.8mm thick, 20mm lug width, and then the lug to lug is coming at 43.9. So really nice compact dimensions. Should fit a large range of wrist sizes. Obviously if you're a bigger guy this might look a little small, but if you've got smaller wrists and you've been looking for a really nice watch, this could be the one. But you're probably wondering, what is the loom like? So let's check it out. You might just be able to see a little bit there, but let's charge it up, give it a chance. So with Pagani, this is usually their Achilles heel. They don't have the best loom, and with this being Phylida, I didn't have the highest expectations for this one, and you'll see now what we actually have. So initially, not too bad. Got that green glow, kind of like C3, not entirely sure if it is. So no patchiness, and consistent across the hands and the indices, but unfortunately, again, with Pagani design, you kind of expect this now. It just doesn't last all that long. It's a slight improvement over some of their others. As I keep saying with their later watches, they're heading in the right direction. They just need to up it a little bit more. It's not going to last you all night. Probably going to last a couple of hours at most. Not terrible, but not great. So now I'll show you what it's like on wrist. And this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. It does wear really nicely. Just hugs your wrist. That bit of curvature to the case, those female end links. Micro adjust in the clasp with the Pagani ones isn't the best. A little bit fiddly sometimes. Luckily I didn't have to use it. But if you need to, you're going to need a thin tool to do that, to get in. It's a little bit fiddly, but other than that, the bracelet is absolutely fine. But it's all about the head of the watch with this one. That lovely inky black dial. That nice domed crystal. And that really nice handset. Similar to the Ranger, obviously. So I'm margin that. But again, they've done their own thing with it. Dimensions have changed. They've changed a few little bits. And I think they've done a really good job. The only things I'd change, add a bit more AR, and just improve that loom. So pretty much the usual Pagani things, but I'd still recommend this one. I just think it's a beautiful looking piece. But let's get on to the next one. Next up, we've got the Phylida Planet Ocean Homage. So the interesting thing about this one is, it's actually a 500 meter diver. which is why we have actually got that helium escape valve there, and that is actually functional, does actually work. So it would be interesting to see if this actually is capable of 500 meter diving. Obviously I can't test that out, but based on the build and how hefty this is, how well built it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it is. It's a really nicely finished piece, really well done, as you come to expect from Phylida. So I've got a quick zoom in on the dial. So we've got applied indices there, and then we've also, which I do like, got that colour match date window at the 3 o'clock. All the text is just printed, and then we've got really nice proportions and finishing on those hands. Nice high polish. If you're not keen on this black and orange one, they do actually do like an all black one, I think, if that's more to your taste. When it comes to this bezel, it's a 120 clicks around with bezel, and I have noticed it is a little on the tight side. Maybe that's because it's new, maybe it'll loosen up over time a bit more, but you definitely don't need to worry about knocking this. This is going nowhere. You need a firm grip on it when you're trying to adjust it, and it does line up perfectly as well, no issues there. So again, it's just like the rest of the watch, it's just really heavy duty. That pretty much just sums it up, I think, because the bracelet is the same. Big thick links, which help balance out the weight in the head of the watch. Really nicely finished as well. Nice smooth brushing, rounded edges, no sharp edges on this at all. Same with the clasp. It's unsigned, but it is milled. When it comes to the case back, we've got sapphire crystal, but it's 500 meter water resistance, as I said earlier. Stainless steel, nothing out of the ordinary there. And there's a screw down case back, as you'd expect. When it comes to the links, there are any push pins. I would have preferred if they were screws, but they work well enough. When it comes to the movement, got the NH35, and then, as you'd expect, screw down crown. We've got female end links, which is always good to see, especially because this is a bigger watch. Not really a lot of curvature to those lugs, so I'll show you how it wears in a bit. Unsigned crown, but it is nicely finished, the case. So I've got a mixture of brushed and polished. Polished on the side, brushed on the side, sorry. Big polished kind of chamfer there, which twists around, and then polished on the inside, brushed on the inside again to match the bracelet. Does look good. Helps make the case look a little bit smaller, I think. Those twisted kind of lugs. So speaking of the dimensions, let's get on to them now. So we've got a diameter of 44mm, thickness of 15.8, so it's a pretty thick one. Lug width of 20, and then the lug to lug is coming in at 51.4, which is a little bit over my ideal 50, but I'll show you what it's like on wrist in a second. Before we do that though, quickly mention, as I said, on the back, it's got sapphire crystal, which got a slight dome to it. So you can see we've got a little bit there already, but let's charge it up. And it has got an interesting lume profile on this, as you'll see in a second. I was pleasantly surprised with this one. Got a mixture of C3 and BGW9. And there we go. So it's mainly BGW9 on the hands and the indices. And if you look at that lume pip, we've actually got C3 on that. I don't know if it's going to come across on camera that well, but it is actually green. And again, as you come to expect with Phylida, really good lume. They don't disappoint. I'd say they're probably just a step below San Martin level, I think. Really impressive lume. Not got to worry about that at all. Now I'll show you what it's like on wrist. So here it is on my 7-inch wrist. I think it might be a touch big for my wrist, because we've got a little bit of overhang there. If that case had just got a tiny bit of curvature to it, I think it would have worn a little bit better. Maybe I could just about pull it off, I'm not really sure. Let me know what you think. Is this a bit too big? Is it more for like a 7.5-inch wrist than a 7? Definitely don't want to go below 7, it'd be far too big for you. If you're a bigger guy though, perhaps this is the one you're after. And as I say, it is really nicely finished. Really nice smooth finishing, rounded off the links. Same with the clasp. Nice detailing on the case, those twisted lugs. Really nicely finished throughout. Sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel, 120 plate, 500 meter diver. You can't really fault it. Colour match date wheel. Perhaps, if I'm being really picky, a little bit more AR. Other than that, can't fault it at all. It's a really good looking piece. So again, don't forget, if you're interested, links down in the description. But let's get on to the next one.